Welcome to Conversations Different, the podcast of the Santa Fe New Mexican, featuring the interesting people, places, and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, your host, and today we have Richard Charlie Shultz, Academic Director for the Controlled Environment Agriculture Program at the Santa Fe Community College. Welcome, Charlie.
Thanks. It's great to be here with you today.
I appreciate you coming down because the college is a ways away from downtown Santa Fe. But let's start with a basic question for all of our listeners. What is controlled environment agriculture?
Great. Thanks again for having us on. It's great to have this platform to talk about what we're doing at the community college. I do feel like it's a little out of the way, and a lot of people from downtown never make it out to the community college, but we have lots going on, including our program. As you said, it's Controlled Environment Agriculture, and short, it's termed CEA. So in our industry, Controlled Environment Agriculture is well known. CEA basically means we need to control that environment for year-round production. Here in New Mexico, as you know, it gets very cold in the winter and very hot in the summers. So if we want to optimize production, whether it's for healthy, nutritious food or if it's for economic return, we want to optimize that environment for the yields.
Right. And part of controlled agriculture focuses on a couple of different ways of growing plants than we're used to. There's hydroponics and aquaponics. Does the term refer to other kinds of agriculture too? Maybe explain what those are and exactly how you're controlling the environment.
Sure. So when we look at CEA, the controlled environment facilities, they're typically either a greenhouse or an indoor building. We see a lot of movement to grow indoors these days. Commonly in CEA, we're using hydroponic and aquaponic systems, which are water recycling systems. And in that key, it's all about water conservation. So we're trying to conserve water by using these systems. Typically in an urban environment where you may find CEA, you may not have a lot of water availability. You may have some city water, maybe a little bit of well water, but often water is limiting in our region. So CEA using closed loop systems, recycle systems like hydroponics and aquaponics allows us to grow food not only year round, but grow food using very little water. And that's what drew me to this region. I spent a lot of my career in the Caribbean where we had very little water, and we had to prove that we could grow food in those limited resource environments. Then I found myself in Santa Fe under the same conditions. We don't have much water available. We've got a lot of users that are demanding that water. So we're trying to show our community how to grow food year-round using very little water.
Now, some people who are critics of this method of basically farming talk about the energy it takes, let's say, to keep the greenhouses at a good temperature, that kind of thing. So if you're conserving water, but you're using a lot of electricity, how does that balance?
So I agree with you that especially in the summertime, these greenhouses especially can be energy hogs. If we're looking to move indoors, you've got even more energy demands. So we have to look at how we get that energy. And at Santa Fe Community College, our greenhouse is off-grid. Right. So we focus our students on three things in the trades area, and it's food, energy, and water. So while they're learning to be water conservative with these hydroponic systems, they're also learning about energy systems. And we have a large solar array at the community college. We have battery storage, fortunately through some partnerships with Sandia National Lab. So in the case at SFCC, we're showing how to design a model facility that can be energy effective and food productive as well.
So basically, the college is fairly sustainable when it comes to its needs because it has energy. Does it have wells for water, or where does it get its water?
Yeah, sure. So we like to look at things like, we call them sovereignties. And
yes.
It could be a water sovereignty, land sovereignty, energy sovereignty. So we're really dialing in those. The campus currently is what we call a microgrid. So it has its own energy supply system. We are tied into P&M, so if we need P&M power, we can use it. And then uniquely, my greenhouse facility is embedded within our campus microgrid. So we call it sometimes a nanogrid embedded within our microgrid. So if P&M went down, our greenhouse would still be running. If the campus microgrid went down, our greenhouse would still be running. And then we have backup energy assets on top of that. So we rely on the solar to charge batteries, but we have other energy assets that we work with. And students now do learn to get involved in the energy systems. So whether it's solar, wind, biofuels, we use all these assets to run this greenhouse.
So if something gets not working, they know how to go plug it back in so it works, or turn it on and off in a more complicated, complex way, of course.
Absolutely. If we look at controlled environment agriculture, whole communities can depend on these large facilities. And we produce quite a bit of food each week. So not only do we ensure that there's power, but our mantra is a backup and a backup to the backup, and a backup to the backup to the backup. So we have many ways that we're going to keep running. Hydroponics in particular can go down pretty quick if you don't have the energy, moving pumps, moving that water around, airflow in your greenhouse. So in some of our cases, we have less than a half a day to respond to an emergency. So it's really critical that we have everything in place.
So this is one system where you build redundancies, and that's a good thing. You know, we all talk about we have to be efficient, we have to be streamlined. You don't want to be streamlined. You want to be able for the whole system to keep working.
Absolutely. Like I said, this is community sovereignty and security, food safety, food availability for our community. So we practice what we preach, and we have that redundancy built in.
And what are you growing in those greenhouses? I've heard the vegetables and the things coming from there are pretty amazing.
Yeah, I like to say that when it comes to nutritional quality, it's all about local. It's all about vine ripe, picked right then and eaten that moment. So as we ship food in, it loses nutritional quality. So we grow year round, and it's something that I want to stress today is why we're doing what we do is for year-round production. About 6 months of the year here, most people could grow in their own garden and supply all the food that they need for their family. But what happens in the other 6 months, and what do we do in December and January and February? A lot of people don't think about their food supply. They're just so used to it being available. But we want to show people that even in the darkest days of winter, we're still growing. So all through the winter here, we've been growing tomatoes and cucumbers and lettuce and Asian greens and chili peppers. And we have a hemp production license. So we train students who may want to enter the hemp or cannabis world how to grow that crop. We even have unique things right now. We have guavas, we've had passion fruits, we just took down our sugar cane. And again, all of this in the middle of the winter.
That's amazing. So you've got some healthy students, and I guess does the food? What happens to what you grow? Is some of it I think is used at the campus?
Yeah. So we don't have a demand to sell our food. I'd actually like to not compete with local farmers in that case. So we basically give our food away. We're teaching the students to produce. And if they wanted to take it to market or become entrepreneurs or have some value-added product, they could take it to the next level. But we're production, so we're teaching the students how to produce, and then we share that food with our community. So the campus cupboard is our first line of distribution where students and staff and faculty can go on campus and pick up our food for free. Then otherwise, our students are taking it. Obviously, they're doing all the work. They're sharing it with their family. They're sharing it with their friends. I actually do some recruiting just by sharing that food out there, and people find out what we're doing. Then otherwise, we have one particular student who's worked with us for about 3 years, Nate Downey. He recently won a New Mexican Top 10 for Santa Fe Award. He's been volunteering to take our produce and distribute it to local foods. So through a cooperation with communities and schools and probably some other organization, Nate's been able to distribute over 10,000 heads of lettuce and Asian greens to school children across Santa Fe.
Wow, that's nice. And on that note, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
Are you dreaming of a home of your own in Santa Fe but feel like it may never happen? HomeWise is here to help. We are a local nonprofit that has helped close to 7,000 New Mexicans from all income levels and backgrounds become homeowners. HomeWise has everything you need to succeed in home ownership, including free coaching and classes, real estate services, affordable fixed-rate mortgages with low down payments, and down payment assistance to qualified borrowers who meet income restrictions and credit qualifications. We'll be with you every step of the way. Get started today on your path to owning a home. Call 505-983-9473 or visit us at homewise.org. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 188231.
We We are back with Conversations Different, talking about all the incredible food being produced out at the community college. One of the things that I think people might not be aware of is that the people who go to the program and graduate, some of them have businesses in Santa Fe and are growing things for our restaurants and markets, et cetera, now. So this is something, it's not like a hobby that I'm going to now go home and grow tomatoes at my house necessarily. It's something that I can do for a living.
Yeah, that's right, Inez. We do a lot of work with continuing education where we offer Saturday courses. We have a lot of these kind of outlets to teach really home growers. We have a Master Gardener series that's about to start at the community college, but our focus is workforce training and workforce development. So we're looking to provide the advanced trained technicians for this new paradigm of farming. This is smart farming in a lot of ways. If we're moving indoors, it's really more about moving air. So your HVAC systems are very important. Obviously, indoor lighting, and that knowledge has to come if you're going to be successful. So we're really trying to make this a business. So we have one student who has a business in town called Desert Verde. It's an indoor facility. It's the first in really this part of the U.S. that's an indoor aquaponic facility. And we can talk a little bit more about aquaponic versus hydroponic in a minute. But he's using fish to drive the production of the plants.
Wow.
So a farmer, Desert Verde, Andrew Neighbor is the farmer. He produces over 4,000 units of per week, and that may be lettuce, it may be spinach, but 4,000 individual units per week. And a farmer like that does not rely on buying fertilizer. He buys fish feed. Very few supplements to manage the pH or add iron, but it's really amazing to think about how much food comes out of these facilities without relying on conventional fertilizers.
And that's right in the middle of town. It's not like out far away. It's like in the Rufina area, someplace like that.
Yeah, it's shocking how it is embedded in town. It's near the Home Depot out on Cerrillos. It's in the industrial park. So it's a lot of warehouse buildings, and you wouldn't know it. Next door is a printing company, and then you walk in his building, and it's a massive indoor facility.
And what that does in terms of food is that means I can buy my food where I live. So as you said, it's going to be more nutritious. It's going to be available year round. And you're not sending, lettuces from South America in the winter and having all those costs in terms of the fuel that it takes to get here.
Yeah, that's right. Desert Verde recently opened an online platform too, so you can go online, you can find Desert Verde or reach out to me later, I'll connect you. And any individual in Santa Fe can now buy through Desert Verde. What they've done uniquely over the last year is they've stepped away from serving the restaurants in town, and they've been certified through the New Mexico Grown program, which has funding available to buy from local producers to move into our school systems and our senior citizen centers. So Andrew Neighbor's mission when he started this was to create the most nutritious food in Santa Fe and get it to the mouths of the people who need it most. And it kind of went a backwards way to get there, but now all of his food's going to our school children and our senior citizens.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And I guess we'll see if any of that's affected by budget cuts at the federal level, but hopefully we can still keep getting good food to kids so they're not just eating, chips and drinking Cokes.
Yeah, we are watching that closely because as federal funds get cut, that obviously will reduce state funds that are available for this. And we've also had a lot of discussion, Andrew Neighbor and I and other producers, where we don't think there's a lot of support in this region for the producers. There's a lot of talk about food distribution and getting foods into homes, but there's not a lot of support for the growers themselves.
Okay.
So with Andrew Neighbor, Desert Verde, Nate Downey's opening lettuce, etc., we do need more support from local community to support these businesses. So when you see them available, please support them through purchasing and be regular so you can support them and they can stay around a little bit longer.
I think it's one of those kind of underground activities that people don't realize is happening. And maybe don't realize, it's a little weird to think about food growing in water versus in the soil.
That's right. Yeah.
So, what's the difference in terms of, you say, he's growing the most nutritious food. So talk about why it is so nutritious.
Well, soil or water, whichever you grow in, you need to supplement. You need to add fertility to that. If I go out in my parking lot here at school, the soil is incredibly poor. So it relies on the grower to input nutrients. The way we're doing it with our water-based systems, if it's aquaponics, we're feeding the fish. And they're creating waste. And that waste is really a nice complement of nutrients that plants need to grow. So
it's like the water water equivalent of cow manure in a sense.
Exactly. They say in an organic soil system, we're not feeding the plants, we're feeding the microbes. And we're doing the same thing in these organic-based aquaponic systems where we're feeding the fish, they create the waste, but that waste is then converted by the microbes into plant food.
Okay.
So it's this perfect relationship when it comes to the fish and the plants. And that's called aquaponics because we're bringing aquaculture, which is fish farming, combining it with hydroponics, which is growing plants in water. And so in these cases, the fish take care of the plants and the plants take care of the fish, allowing us to recycle that water over and over. A paradigm shift, right? Our podcast is Conversation Different. This is a different way of growing. I like to say this is a paradigm shift. Plants need water. The water helps the nutrients move into the cells and up through the plants. Plants can grow without soil. In my opinion, the water is magic. Without the water, the plant can't live. So understanding nutrient dynamics and the microbial ecosystem in water is the same thing soil farmers are doing. And we're trying to make that as prolific with the microbial life as possible to give us the most nutritious food as possible.
Oh, that sounds... I can just see the lettuces and the tomatoes right now. We'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
Welcome back to Conversations Different, where we are talking about an exciting program at the community college that is going to change how you think about food. Now, a lot of people don't know about this and sometimes forget the college is there unless they're going to a basketball game or something, or maybe an art show out there. But there's going to be an open house later this month. So why don't you talk about what people can learn about their community college?
Sure. I would really love your listeners to mark on their calendar April 26th. That's the CEA open house, where we provide greenhouse tours. We're going to have a plant sale. We're going to have a book sale. Our culinary department combines with us, and they take our food and they're preparing samples. So from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock on April 26th, come out for our CEA open house. And I just want to shout out the community college. This is part of Community College Month coming up in April. And if you search on Google Community College Month, Santa Fe Community College, you're going to find a list of a lot of events starting on the 1st of April with a visual art gallery presentation. On the 2nd, we have Explora coming and doing a workshop for kids. Again, all the information is on the website. We have a creative writing session also on the 2nd. Financial aid open house. We have a lot of things happening this month at our fitness center, including some pretty impressive swimming events, and some gold medalists will be there as well. Importantly, if you're listening and you're looking for a job, we have a career fair on April 9th. So come on out between 12 and 3, and there's lots of businesses in town that are looking for employees. So come on out on that day. On the 10th of April, we have a Santa Fe Community College showcase in one of our art departments. We have building and trades open house. This is my area, but it's going to focus on the HVAC and plumbing and building systems and building construction, and that's on Thursday the 10th. There's so much happening, it's hard to take much time to do all this. There's a car club car wash coming on the 11th, more swimming events on the 12th. But I want to jump into our program real quick. It was the 26th, as I mentioned, is a CEA open house. So this is a chance for you to come and learn and see about hydroponics, understand how hydroponics hydroponics operates. Talk to us about the nutritional quality of our food. Come sample our food. We often send you home with food if you come visit. And it's kind of our way to share with the community. As I said, when I came here about 8 years ago, I don't think there's a bridge between the community and the community college. But I have seen a lot of work over those last 8 years to make this bridge happen. So we'd like to see you all come out. We'd like to teach you about what we're doing in the areas of food, energy, and water as well, and we will sign you up. Students of all ages take our program. In the CEA program, we offer a certificate that students can obtain in 1 year, or we offer an associate's degree, and that's a 2-year pathway to get that degree. As you mentioned, Inez, also under my umbrella is the algae program. So students can come in 1 year also get an algae certificate.
And that's really fascinating because I forget where it is in southern New Mexico, but there's actually a place where you can go work in the state and use algae. And I don't remember if they're trying to use it for energy, but algae can be used for food additives, for energy, just all sorts of things that you don't necessarily associate with those little...
Yeah, absolutely. It started at the community college in our biofuels program to extract the oil and create biodiesel, which we still do. But mainly it's branched into human nutrition, cosmetics, pharmacology. Yep. Like you said, there's a lot you can do with algae. And I'll shout out a farm that we have on campus that it's a public-private partnerships, Apogee Spirulina. So many of your listeners may find the spirulina booth at the farmer's market on Saturday morning. That's grown here locally in Santa Fe. It's the most nutritious food you could put in your body. It's 65% protein, every amino acid that humans need to survive. And we're using very, very little resources to produce that food.
Because that's one of the goals of this kind of agriculture, looking beyond eating local, eating nutritiously, is to make sure no one in the world goes hungry.
Yeah, I have a global perspective when I look at my career. I focused on fish farming because most people in the world get their animal protein through fish. We live along the oceans. In the late 80s, we saw an example of medical waste washing up on our seashore. It was 1988. Everybody of our generation remembers the news that night because we only had 3 channels, and it was on the same channel, and it was in Atlantic City, and the mafia had taken all this medical waste and just dumped it out in the ocean. So we often start our classes with a conversation about wild fish versus farmed fish. And I share with my students every week about what's in your wild fish, what they're testing positive for, things like opioids, things like estrogens. So the idea of any pharmaceutical that we flush down our toilet ends in our open systems. So controlled environment agriculture eliminates some of the toxins of our open systems. So now in the ocean, there's plastics everywhere.
Yes.
Not just medicinal waste, but all kinds of persistent plastics and the microplastics. But you also have every other contaminant that humans are putting into our environment. At the community college, we grow our fish in rainwater. We have a complete diet for our fish that uses no GMO ingredients. So in our case, I like to say this is the cleanest fish you could have in New Mexico.
Wow.
Right here in Santa Fe.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know when the family goes fishing, there are certain places where it's always catch and release because you don't want to eat.
Right. If you're a pregnant woman, you're being advised not to eat much tuna because it's full of mercury.
Yes.
Every wild fish is full of these contaminants. We need to wake up and understand what we're putting in our bodies. Right. So, yeah, I think Santa Fe Community College, we have a bigger picture than just teaching people how to grow and plant a seed. It is about sovereignties for communities. And Santa Fe Community College has really become a model for these sovereignty issues that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing because it means that if everything else goes dark, you still have a way to grow food, to have your energy, to do your jobs, that kind of thing. How many students do you guys have?
Oh, it ebb and flows like a hydroponic system, just ebbs and flows. It depends year to year. In our program, sometimes we see that when the cost of energy is low, those biofuel programs aren't really popular.
Interesting.
Everyone's used to the low prices of energy. I would say typically we have about 20 to 40 individual students moving through the hallways at a different pace, working towards their CEA degrees.
Good. And there was a big rush a few years ago because so many people were going to get involved in the growing cannabis industry.
Oh, sure.
And that we were meant to, on our walk over, you mentioned that might be changing a little bit.
Yeah, I used to say that students that came to our program because they wanted to grow cannabis, which was often quite a few students because you just search for hydroponics and cannabis usually complements that. But students come to our program, they thought they would want to get into the cannabis cannabis world. But the cannabis world, like one of your guests on one of your podcasts had talked about, cannabis has really gone boom and bust in New Mexico. So students who get a degree in CEA and they try to get a job in a cannabis dispensary or a grow, they're going to probably be offered minimum wage. It's a really cutthroat business. After 2 years of working with either hemp or on our site or vegetables, most of the students, they switch to vegetables. They understand the need for human nutrition versus medicine. Cannabis can be used as medicine, but the price is fairly low right now. So we're looking more towards vegetables. I often pick kale on my tours. I give many, many tours every week, and I often pick kale, and I show them how kale continues to regrow. You just pick the big leaves. And in the Santa Fe Farmers Market, the kale's about $9 a pound. And I was in Wyoming recently, it was $12 a pound.
Yikes.
So kale and other nutritious vegetables are being priced at about the same price as some beef these days. So we're really seeing a flip, a paradigm shift again, and people moving towards a more wholesome, healthy, vegetable-based diet.
Right. And if they can grow some of it themselves, or if there are more stores like Mr. Neighbor's available, they might be able to get it for $10 or $8 instead.
Yeah, and I think you're a backyard grower at times.
Yes.
So I think our program applies towards the backyard growers in New Mexico, and that's why we offer things like the continuing ed workshops. I work with Cooperative Extension out of NMSU, and we often do free online series learning as well. The Master Gardener workshop that I just mentioned, we're collaborating by helping host them, and that's a free 6-night class. 6 Saturdays coming up, and it's called Seed to Supper. So it's really teaching you, where do your seeds come from, which seeds should you buy, how do you treat your seeds, and how do you grow your plants, and then how do you harvest your plants and make your own meal.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know how to cook with fresh vegetables. We're used to so much processed foods. So this little 6-week course is going to teach people to take it from seed to supper.
Wow, that really makes you independent and less dependent on the system and supply chain breakage and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you really step up your backyard, you'd be amazed at how much you can grow, because you can grow excess of a certain crop and trade it from your neighbor for eggs, and you could trade it over here for some lettuce. So, and I've done that most of my life, is I've utilized my backyard to its fullest.
Yeah. What led you to be so interested as a person and as a young person growing food?
I think like many people who are farmers these days, my grandfather was farming. So generations and generations. I heard an elder from Jemez recently, and I believe I'm the same. I think I've been doing this for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so I just innately have these skills. I tell my students that to succeed in this area, you need to be a plant whisperer. There was a famous horse whisperer movie and a book, and Robert Redford could communicate with these horses that he was trying to break. We do the same with plants. We really got to be in tune with the plant and communicate with the plant. So I think I have those innate abilities to nurture plants all the way through.
That's amazing. I think that's probably why so many of mine die.
Yeah,
I communicate improperly. It was during the pandemic. You read so much about, indoor air. I decided to bring back houseplants because I kill so many over the years, and they're not the most healthy, beautiful ones, but they're not dead yet. So I've been feeling like for 5 years, I haven't killed as much as I had in the past.
That is so great. I find that through teaching plants, there's many areas we can go into. And one, for instance, is called horticulture therapy. It's not my mission to teach students to become a therapist, but when they do have that innate ability to talk to plants and communicate with people, I kind of pick them out individually and focus them into this area of therapy. I've worked with a lot of prisoners and Down syndrome, so mental disabilities, and working with plants just really brings something out.
It's very calming.
It's very calming. Currently, we're giving tours every other week to Santa Fe Recovery. So we're bringing in people who may not have a career direction, but they see us working with plants, and we kind of reinforce that you too can do this for your career. And it's a lot easier than working with people sometimes.
No kidding. Although, like I said, sometimes you kill a bunch. And speaking of growing, though, in horticulture and flowers, that's another way that people can actually create a more sustainable world, because most of our flowers come from overseas, but you can have a greenhouse and grow flowers and sell them.
Yeah, there's another term called CEH.
Okay.
So we've been talking about CEA, controlled environment agriculture and food production, but controlled environment horticulture.
Okay.
And the biggest greenhouse industry in the U.S. is floriculture. And we can do amazing things. We can have poinsettias any time of the year by driving lights. We can have tall Easter lilies for up at the front at the pew, and we can have short Easter lilies for down the walkways. And we do all that through controlling environments, through day and night temperatures and light. And then that all goes on the market. And you're right, there's a huge business in floriculture.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that community college does when it works right, and this one I think has for a long time, is it shows people opportunities. You may want a 4-year degree, you may not want a 4-year degree, but you may just want to go to work. And there are many ways to get a certificate, get a degree, not go into huge debt, and be employable and have fun at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the community college as a launching pad for your young high school graduate to pick up those gen ed classes before you send them off to university. Or, like you said, we're a very unique school, and we're presenting opportunities that many people haven't thought about. The hydroponics, the aquaponics, the off-grid greenhouse, we stand out in the nation. This is Santa Fe Community College, a very small school, but everyone in the nation knows who we are. I travel the world literally giving presentations on how to become a more resilient community, a more resilient community college. Through what we're doing. I'm also working a lot with grants right now, so I'll take a moment to just talk about some of the work we're doing with local high schools. So I have a grant that's adopting high schools every year, and we're giving them systems in their high school so they get hands-on experience. So we've been working with schools in Santa Fe like ECO, Monte del Sol, Tierra Encantada, the New Mexico School for the Deaf, the master's program. All of those schools I mentioned and more are getting college credit at the high school level. So we have an ongoing grant that provides funding for that. I also have a relationship with New Mexico State and University of Arizona where we're providing 4 scholarships a year to students who think they want to get into the fishery world. So I'm handing out money right now. Another big grant that we have that's exciting for us because we love to work with our local communities, including our Pueblo communities. So I've got a grant right now with Navajo Tech, which is in Crown Point. It's a little ways away, but we're working with indigenous communities to start introducing hoop houses and hydroponic systems that they can operate themselves while we operate them, and we can share those results side by side. So we're doing a lot of training and a lot of building, and all that's in collaboration with New Mexico State Cooperative Extension as well.
So it sounds like you're expanding the opportunity for a lot of people, and there's also research going on to see what works and what will sustain you going forward. Yeah,
the Navajo Tech work uniquely, that was built on a project that they had done that identified most of their soils are contaminated with uranium.
Okay.
Their food's contaminated, their groundwater's contaminated, and they don't know what to do. So hydroponics offers a way to separate your crops from that contaminated soil. We're capturing rainwater to give them clean water. So it's literally providing sustenance for communities that are really relying on outside sources of food. That's really important there because agriculture was such a traditional part and so important to their cultural life. Yeah, I've been working gently to move into indigenous networks because, like you said, their way of life was natural ecosystems and sun cycles, and they don't grow a lot in the winter. But when COVID hit, they realized that they weren't sovereign with food. They relied on shopping. They went to Sam's Club, and the Jemez, for instance, was closed. The gates were closed, but they were letting people out for one day a week to go shopping. We ended up bringing fresh produce from Santa Fe Community College to Jemez Pueblo and handed it over the fence because they had no food at that time. So since COVID, I've seen the tribal groups really turn around and say, we're moving into this. We're moving into greenhouses. We're moving into water conservative farming because we need to support our communities. Wow. That'll be a huge change because that means if you do have to close the gates, you're not going to starve. Exactly. And that's what we all want because this world seems a little, uncertain these days. Yeah, and we need to protect our communities, right? Yeah. I like to look at Santa Fe Community College as a community, as a kind of a sole existing community where we take care of ourselves. We have predominantly off-grid during the day. We have a huge solar array. We have battery storage that we can run all night. We collect our own water. Now we're producing our own food. So we like to use that as a model for other communities. And I think Pueblos, for me, are another ideal community that we can model
Yeah, because they're
self-contained,
definitely. On that note, this has been another Conversations Different, and everyone go to the open house and celebrate Community College Month. We'll be back next week. Thank you for listening to Conversations Different, hosted by me, Inez Russell Gomez, editorial page editor for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our weekly episodes would not be possible without your support. We hope you enjoy them and keep listening. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Consider signing up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our podcast is available by visiting our website, santafenewmexican.com/podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez is produced by Matt Dalside and Ernesto Cisneros, published by the Santa Fe New Mexican, a local and independent newspaper owned by Robin Martin.